one question that I always like to ask filmmakers is, do you have a copy of all your films?
Yeah, I have 35mm print of all my pictures, sometimes 2 prints. I got them made right away at the lab before I turned the pictures over to the studios. I didn't want to go back and ask the studios if I could have a print. Usually there's some jerky lawyer who decides to give you some reason why you can't have a print of your own movie, so I never took that chance.
Okay, well, before you got to the movies, though, I want to stick a little bit with your TV work, because it strikes me now, in retrospect, as kind of visionary and influential. I think you can see the roots of the Defenders in a show like Law and Order. You can see the roots of you can see the Invaders in the roots of a show like The X-Files.
Yeah, I think The X-Files was definitely influenced by The Invaders and the way it was shot, the kind of documentary treatment of science fiction, which is similar to what you'll see in God Told Me To, which is taking a fantasy story, a science fiction story, and treating it in the documentary, naked city kind of approach, with a lot of handheld camera work, which is similar to what's being done today on most of the, particularly on television today, where some of the series are all completely handheld, where every shot in the show is a handheld shot. And I told the cameraman I wanted to shoot this whole movie handheld. He thought I was crazy. And I said, I want this to feel like a documentary, and that will give it a new style, doing something that is bigger than life science fiction, and giving it the style of a real hard, gritty New York crime drama. I just started to make the picture without any backing at all. There was a sequence that was going to happen in the St. Patrick's Day parade, and I knew that if I didn't get this sequence shot, that I wouldn't be able to have any parade until the following year. So I got my crew together, and I said, we're going to shoot this scene in the St. Patrick's Day parade, and then we'll have it, and then I'll hope to get the money from somebody to make the picture later, incorporate this footage.
But that sequence in St. Patrick's Day parade is a pretty remarkable feat of filmmaking, actually. You kind of wonder how you got all that coverage and also were able to execute a dramatic moment.
Particularly without a permit. Anybody today that would go into the St. Patrick's Day parade with 5,000 cops and guns and blood bags and stage a gunfight in the middle of the parade without having any permission at all to do it. But the thing was that it was so absurd that you wouldn't have permission that no one imagined for a moment that I didn't have a permit. When I told cops to fall down, they threw themselves on the ground. They were flying all over the place, and it was pretty unbelievable. And then when we got finished, I needed some more footage, so actually we called up Irish American organizations in Los Angeles and told them we wanted to restage the St. Patrick's Day parade in downtown LA. Well, these Irish organizations, they only get to march once a year, if that, so they were so happy that they were going to get to relive St. Patrick's Day. So they showed up in busloads with musical instruments and full regalia, and free of charge, they restaged this portion of the St. Patrick's Parade in downtown LA, and we intercut the things, and that's how we got the sequence. And my interest in these movies, and It's Alive, and this one too in particular, are the characters, the people, and the emotional journey that they take. And something happens to these characters in these films. They go from one place to another, their personality changes, they evolve, they come to face things about themselves that are very frightening, and they either overcome or they succumb to them. And the husband and wife in It's Alive, I thought those were two very, very fine performances. And I gave the actors something to work with, and they ran with it, and they did a great job. And in this picture, you'll see Tony LoBianco and Sandy Dennis and the others. They really rise up to the level of the material, and the special effects and the monsters and all that stuff is always secondary in my films to the character. Today, of course, everything is digital, and how much production value can you get on the screen, and how much effects you can get on the screen. And my opinion is, no matter how great the monsters are and how great the creatures are, after you've seen them for 5 minutes, you stop being afraid of them, and you just start looking at how technically well done it is, and it kind of takes you out of the movie. Rather than being submerged in the movie, you're just looking at how well everything was put together and how seamlessly it's been created, and that's what the movie's all about, rather than being about the emergence of character or the emotional aspect of the picture. My films are all operating on an emotional level. Now, if they have a message that goes with it, that certainly comes out of what the characters end up doing. But that's more subconscious than anything, because as I say, I usually don't know what's going to happen next when I sit down to write.
Well, another thing that's interesting about your movies is that so many of them, especially the ones set in New York, they have great authenticity about New York City.
This is the greatest backlot in the world.
Well, sometimes, go ahead and applaud that.
You can't walk down the street here without seeing something to shoot. But, I can't walk down the street without seeing someplace I already shot.
But the flavor in New York is very special.
Yeah.
And, the way you shot the San Gennaro Festival, it's quite good. Also, the way you open up with Bloomingdale's.
Oh, well,
It's quite,
we have
quite remarkable and
we have a tragic element to this. I mean, it's very unpleasant, unfortunately. I was thinking when we were scheduling this picture to be shown that I had to get up at the beginning and make a bit of an apology, because the beginning of the film is a sniper sequence in which a sniper on top of a water tower in mid-Manhattan kills a lot of New Yorkers for no rhyme or reason, and then says that God told him to. And I know this is very close to what's been happening, and I know it's very unpleasant and probably going to be unpleasant for me to watch and you to watch as well. So please excuse me, but I made this picture in 1976 or something, and what can you do? I mean, things like that happen.
there are, I guess, what you call biological images in God's Holy City.
Yeah.
I wonder how you got away with them. That's why I asked the
I wonder how I got away with it too. The picture was open, they played it, and nobody said anything. So I wasn't going to call their attention to it. As I say, when you make low-budget pictures, people don't care that much. They don't pay any attention to it.
When was the original title first used?
It was released as God told me to, and then maybe 2 months later, before the New York release, they came to me and said they wanted a new title. So I figured the demon was the omen spelled sideways. So it didn't make any difference, because the ad campaign was lousy. When the ad campaign is lousy, with any kind of a horror film, you're cooked. Because the ad campaign is of paramount importance in selling a horror film.
I feel like we could easily go for another hour, but unfortunately we got to show the movie
Let's
now.
not show the movie.
No. We can take a vote if you want.
They all see the movie anyway.
Um,
I'm anxious to see it on the big screen along with you, actually.
So I'm afraid that's all we have time for.